The sirens announced it again at dawn, rolling through the city like a memory no one wanted to relive. Screens flickered on across buildings, carrying the same calm, unshakable voice. For the third time in 10 years, the government would redistribute wives. They called it balance and social order. Words chosen to sound gentle, even necessary. But on the streets, no one repeated those words. Silence became the only safe response. I was standing in line for bread when the announcement ended. People just froze where they stood, hands gripping their ration cards. Everyone waited for the lists. By noon, the screens filled with them, names scrolling endlessly. Men on one side, women on the other. Entire lives reduced to cold numbers. These pairings were calculated by algorithms that had never felt a single moment of fear. Some people cried when they found their names. Others looked relieved, then ashamed of their own relief. Most just stared at the ground, pretending not to see their neighbors' fates unfold. I wasn't married, so my name didn't appear. I had no real stake in it, except for watching the system work its chilling magic once again. But that's when I noticed something wrong. At the very bottom of the screen, separated by a thin gray line, was a single name. There was no pairing next to it, no reassignment code, just one word: deferred. The name was Lena Marrow. I recognized it instantly. I'd known her since we were children. She lived 3 blocks from me, in a building that leaned like it was just tired of standing. Lena worked 2 jobs and never complained. She paid her taxes, followed every rule, and stayed invisible. But somehow, that still wasn't enough. By evening, the trucks arrived. Couples were loaded up with documents and bags, their lives compressed into humming metal boxers. Some resisted, but most went quietly, holding hands one last time. No truck stopped for Linnea. No official called her name. The system just moved on without her, as if she were a ghost. Later, I found her sitting on the cracked steps outside her building. A small bag rested beside her, already packed. She didn't look surprised to see me. "They forgot me," she said, her voice steady but her hands trembling as she stared at the empty street. I shook my head slowly. "They didn't forget," I said. "You just don't fit. In this country, not fitting was far worse than being wrong. It meant you weren't worth correcting. It meant you could just disappear, quietly, and no one would ask why." The next few days were strange and heavy. Factories froze her contracts, and Lena's shifts vanished overnight. Without a reassignment, her rations stopped. Without rations, she had no protection. She existed in a gap the system didn't bother to close. People noticed, and then they actively avoided her. I brought her food when I could, but I'd see others cross the street when they saw her coming. Fear makes cowards of decent people. On the 5th day, officials arrived. They didn't wear uniforms, just polite expressions and careful, rehearsed smiles. They told Lena she had options: temporary domestic service in an upper-tier home, no wages, but shelter and silence were guaranteed. Or relocation to an agricultural zone, indefinitely. Or a volunteer pilot program they refused to explain properly. Lena listened without interrupting. She just nodded and thanked them. When Tay left, she let out a soft laugh. It wasn't humor. It was just exhaustion finding a sound. That night, I made a decision I never thought I would make. I asked Lena to marry me. Not out of love, but out of math. If we married, she would exist again in the system. Not safe, not free, but visible. And sometimes, visibility is survival. She looked at me for a long time. "You don't love me," she said quietly. I didn't argue. "I know," I said, "but I won't let them erase you." The room stayed silent after that. She gave me her answer the next morning. We went to a local office that still pretended to function. The clerk barely looked at us. He scanned our documents, frowned, hesitated for a moment, and then stamped his approval. There were no congratulations, just quiet, shared relief. For the first time in weeks, Lena's name appeared on a list again. The system acknowledged her existence, but systems hate being tricked. 2 days later, a revision notice arrived. Our marriage was flagged for review. Income imbalance, timing, irregularities, intent questioned. They separated us for interviews. They asked me why I married her. I told them the truth. They didn't like the truth. They preferred answers that fit neatly into their categories. Lena was questioned separately. They asked her if she felt coerced. She looked them dead in the eyes and said she felt chosen. That word, it unsettled them. The case stalled. Files move slowly when no one wants to take responsibility. In the waiting, we lived quietly together. We shared meals and talked late into the night. We learned each other's habits and fears. And in that shared space, something real began to grow between us. Then the final notice arrived. The redistribution program was ending. All deferred cases would be resolved. Lena's name appeared on a list again. This time, she was paired, but not with me. She was assigned to an upper sector man, recently widowed, with a high contribution score. We had 48 hours. I expected her to cry. Instead, she stood straighter than I'd ever seen her. Her voice didn't shake. "They won't decide this," she said. And for the first time, I truly believed her. We went public quietly but visibly. We told our story, step by step, about being forgotten and then corrected too late. And then others spoke up. Stories surfaced. Names from the bottom of those lists rose into view. The silence that had held our city captive for so long finally cracked. The officials responded too slowly. Erasing us quietly was no longer an option. They canceled the pairing. They called it an exception, an oversight. The language they used didn't matter anymore. Lena stayed. The program ended. The sirens stopped. Life didn't suddenly become fair, but something shifted, just enough to matter. Sometimes I remember that list, her name standing alone at the bottom, and I think about how close the world came to deciding she didn't matter. I'm glad it failed, because some people aren't meant to be given away. They're meant to be chosen. Thanks for listening. If our story resonated with you, please consider liking this video and subscribing for more.